members of staff, if you know you are a staff and you are at the back, just raise your hand. If you know you are a staff and you are seated, kindly raise your hand. I don't want to come there. Just raise your hand for me. If you are a staff, kindly stand up, please. If you are a staff and you are seated, kindly stand up. Okay. If you are a staff and you are part of the media, just raise your hand again. Okay, so the two of you, sit down. The rest, kindly move out. Thank you. Thank you very much for observing, and we'll get back to you with the detail. So get the other seat.
Actually, those seats on that side there are reserved for everyone. But the staff.
You know you can't. You know you're a staff and ask people to stand up and you did not. No, you can't. Not with me.
Wow. Who are standing, Mr. Clark? You know you are standing, please. Find you sit outside or you find way to sit down. All those who are standing, can you leave us? If you are standing, you don't have seats, please leave. No, if you are standing, you don't have seats, please leave. If you are standing, please leave us.
Excuse me. Let's get this ended. I think we are ready. Honorable, do you have a seat? Okay. Kindly take your seat, sir. All right, we start. And then for the journalists, please limit your movement. Please limit your movement as journalists, especially the photographers. Excuse me, sir. Hey.
Glad it's talking to.
You know the list. I say no, you limit your movement, sir. Yeah, I don't want too much movement. Okay.
Who is that stand here? Yeah, who? Just stay inside.
Yeah, can be smelling.
Okay. Mr. Photographer, it's enough now. You put yourself in the wall, please.
Honorable members of Parliament, all stakeholders present, good morning, and I welcome you here this morning to this pre-legislative hearing on the bill entitled the Constitution of Sierra Leone Amendments Act 2025. Before we proceed, I would like us to invoke the presence of God by saying our individual prayers, please. Let us pray for a minute. Amen. Amen. I'll now hand it over to the Clerk of Parliament for his statement.
Go back to the parliamentary prayers. Go back to the parliamentary prayers. Please, you just change the procedure for records. Sir, take over. Let's go to the parliamentary.
Let us pray. Almighty God, without whose light labor is useless. Almighty God, without whose help labor is useless. Without whose light search is vain.
Hold on. Black. Can we do the normal procedure? We stand. If you don't have the prayers that you have, we copy from the plaque, so we can stand and you recite the prayers. Can we please stand? But don't worry, we are okay.
Almighty God, without
Don't
Just read that number. Why you read it? Just
Almighty God, without whose help the world is useless, without whose light search is vain, we then on what the servants here gathered together in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above, to direct and guide us in all our deliberations, and lay aside all private interests, prejudices, and partial affections. The results of all our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name.
Thank you.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. The leader of government business, the leader of opposition, and government ministers present, and the team from the AG's office, representatives for political parties, and other stakeholders, honorable members, welcome to Parliament. And for you as honorable members, the procedure is the same in every other privilege. The Constitution or standing order did not discriminate between or among bills as they sail through the legislative process, except that there are certain ones that are given special attention. But the procedure is just the same for this one, just like the other bills that we've been having. For the general public, I would like to draw your attention. I would just like to read something from the standing orders so that you will know why you are here. And under standing order 47, and I'll read 2, because all the processes in one have been fulfilled. But I'll read it, okay, for the benefit of the public. It reads: save as otherwise provided for in SO 61, bills affecting private rights. It's actually saying 61 is talking about gazetting and all of these things that we have to go through. It has to come with cabinet conclusion and the like. Every bill shall, before its introduction into Parliament, be first published in an issue of the Gazette, and in a subsequent issue of the Gazette, there shall be inserted a notice of the bill, having been so published, of the issue of the Gazette in which it was published, and of its proposed introduction into Parliament, provided that not less than 9 days shall elapse between the first publication of a bill in the Gazette and its introduction into Parliament for the first reading. In discussion with the AG, those processes have been fulfilled. And I'll go to 2. That is where I'm drawing your attention to. A pre-legislative scrutiny and discussion of a bill in camera may be arranged. In other words, the leadership here and the members may decide that they want to look at this bill in camera, but there are other provisions. May be arranged where necessary, if they deem it necessary, between members and the minister or member in charge of a bill. In other words, the pre-legislative hearing is between the minister piloting the bill and Parliament, or the members of Parliament, or in the case of a private bill, between the members and that member that is piloting that bill. So this meeting, just like any other bill, is actually between the members seated here, these members here, and the Attorney General's office. However, there's a provision for what is happening today. Such an encounter may be open to the participation of stakeholders if their participation at this stage is considered necessary. So in discussion with Mr. Speaker, in discussion with the leaders, in discussion with the chairperson of the Legislative Committee, in discussion with the AG's office, they all accepted, please keep this door closed. They all accepted that we can have a gathering like this, open for other stakeholders to be part of it. And I was discussing with the leader of government business, now that we are talking about the Constitution, which touches everyone, who do we consider as stakeholders? So that's the reason why for most of you, your institution, you did not receive direct formal letter from me saying you are a stakeholder, come and this or that, because every citizen here is a stakeholder when it comes to the Constitution. So there were no formal letters, but the notices were sent out. That's why you are here. We appreciate you that you took out of your busy schedules to be here. We welcome you. If it so behoves the leaders, the chairperson in this occasion for the Legislative Committee or the AG's office to welcome any stakeholder to make an input into this process at this stage, then it's with them. They can so decide, and you are welcome to do so. However, on the other hand, if you are not asked as a stakeholder, other than the honorable members of Parliament, to make an input, please note that we are just bringing into play SO 47(2). It is their discretion. Please take note of that. And without much ado, and with the leave of the leaders, I want to recognize former members of Parliament that are with us here. Please kindly stand. If you're a former MP, please kindly stand. I know you are. I don't want to single you out, and I have a reason for doing so. Please just raise your hand if you're a former member of. Okay, they're here. So, all right. So the leadership asked me to welcome all of you to Parliament, and you are highly welcome. And I still don't want to single you out, but I have to do that. I want to personally welcome the former Deputy Speaker here, and also personally welcome the former leader of opposition. They are both here with us. Thank you very much for coming. Of course, from AG's office and other aspirants, I'm seeing so many faces. And sorry, I may not want to single anybody out, but you're also welcome. Thank you very much. Without much ado, and I will ask the chairperson to take over this meeting. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I wish you a very salient contribution, and I wish you that you will sail through peaceably in all dimensions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark.
Oh, sorry. Extremely sorry. We have to recognize the presence of Her Worship the Mayor. Kindly stand. No, you are special. You are very special. I didn't see her because she was seated at my back, but I'm extremely sorry. The mayor of the city, the municipality, is with us here. And we are blessed by your presence and welcome you. Thank you.
The former deputy speaker and former opposition.
No. And the former ECOWAS speaker, but he's still a member of Parliament. He's here also. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you and we love you. Cheer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Leader of government business, Honorable Matthew Samiwa. The leader of the opposition, Honorable Abdul Kaku. Rest of the parliamentary leadership here present. Colleague members of Parliament, Attorney General, Minister of Justice, Her Worship, the Mayor, Presidency Council, representatives of political parties, former members of Parliament, civil society organizations, Fourth Estate, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Again, I want to welcome you on behalf of the parliamentary leadership to this very important pre-legislative engagement. The engagement on the bill entitled the Constitution of Sierra Leone Amendment Act 2025, being an act to amend the Constitution of Sierra Leone 1991, Act number 6 of 1991, and to provide for other related matters. I need not go over the procedures as already been stated by the clerk, but it's very important to remind all of us here the purpose of the session. During this session, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice is going to provide us a clear presentation on the merits of the bill. Honorable members at the back, may I have attention, please? Members will have the opportunity to broaden their understanding on the bill that's in front of us. And after the presentation, they will have an opportunity to ask questions, to seek clarifications or make suggestions. The AG has held so many other consultative meetings, but this time around, it's here in Parliament. So I want to encourage each and every one of you to listen carefully, take your notes, and then ask questions by the end of the presentation. Need not waste time, we go to the engagement program. At this juncture, I would like to invite statements, and the first one is going to be from the Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Abdulkabu. Mr. Leader.
Thank you very much, the Chairman for the Legislative Committee. I want to join in sending my salutation to the Leader of Government Business, members of Parliament, the Deputy Speaker of the Parliament of Sierra Leone, the former Speaker of ECOWAS Parliament, leadership of Parliament, former members of Parliament, including my predecessor, the former leader of the opposition, the mayor of the city, all flag bearer aspirants from all political parties.
Are you doing this?
One of them is seated right with us on that table. Yes, representatives from civil society organizations, government ministers, and staff of Parliament. This is the most important privilege we've had in the 5th and the 6th Parliament of the Second Republic, because this touches on the most important and sacred document of our state. So this is one of the reasons for which I think the consultation process, including the village, must not be only micromanaged by members of parliament. This document has to do with the public, and we should create conducive environment for the public also to have their say. I have always maintained the view that Sierra Leone does not belong to APC, neither does it belong to SLPP. Governments have come and gone, but it belongs to the people of this country. And one of the fundamentals in lawmaking is consultation, stakeholders consultation. So we want to seize this opportunity to listen to equally what the other stakeholders who do not belong to political parties will have to say about these amendments. But critically, we should not be oblivious of the constitutional provisions. In amending any clause in the Constitution, we should ensure that it is done by a resolution of 2/3 of members of parliament. In amending entrenched clauses as stated in section 108 of the Constitution, we should ensure that after securing the 2/3 approval in parliament, it should be subjected to referendum. In an event we fall short of any of these legal processes and procedures, we will be liable to treason. And when one's crime is committed, don't think if you are not judged during that very period you are safe. Don't think you are safe. Sierra Leone is a country of records. So to us in the opposition, we have expressed our absolute willingness. That was why even in the composition of the tripartite committee, which recommends most of the amendments, am I protected?
Order, honorable members. Thank you for your understanding.
That was an overtone. Yes, sir. The recommendations emanate from the amendments. Most of the amendments emanate from the recommendations in the tripartite that was constituted by both members of the APC and members of the SLPP of government. As we gave our unflinching support to our team that was sent, we equally expect that these amendments will reflect what was agreed upon by the two parties. Save for those other important recommendations from the public. Like I said, this country does not belong to APC, neither does it belong to SLPP. So APC and SLPP should not think that they should dictate what should happen in the country without consultation to those who do not necessarily belong to these political parties. So accommodation must be made for stakeholders who may have one or two other recommendations to make. As I have always maintained, This parliament has never been rancorous, and we don't intend to make it rancorous. But we'll be very strict, we'll be very unapologetic in ensuring that processes and procedures are strictly followed. In electricals and electronics connections, they say I am an engineer, so I must be. They say if you have two resistors connected in parallel and you inject any amount of current into those resistors, it is highly likely that the current will avoid the high resistor and go through the lesser resistor. If procedures and processes are not followed, or provide the highest resistance you could ever imagine. So to me, we are all young people. We are all young people. And one of the advantages of being a young person is that you have many years to live to see your legacy. Many years to live to see your legacy.
Order.
Honorable members, I believe when we are speaking, you should pay attention. You don't need undertones of comments. You are going to have your own tone where you make your comments. When you're talking, I don't even make undertones, please. Let us listen carefully. He's talking about the unity of Parliament and the survival of our democracy. Please, let us give him attention. He did not allow him to talk about the anode and the cathode.
Thank you, Leader of Government Business. And I want to use the same opportunity to caution my members that whilst the Leader of Government speaks, he should not be interjected or procedurally interrupted as some members are doing now. Like I said, like I said, posterity will hold us responsible if we don't do what is correct. And we on this side,
It is your members that are giving order.
We on this side, I don't expect any member of Parliament to make any comment. We on this side, if the processes and procedures are compliant with what is entrenched in our Constitution, we will fully support this process. But in a case that the processes and procedures are not compliant with what is in the Constitution, we will not involve, we will recuse ourselves from the dangers that lie ahead. It's not a threat, except if somebody is of the opinion that this very amendment will not be compliant with the laws of Sierra Leone. So to me, one commendation I want to give to this Parliament is that we have been very consultative on several occasions. When issues rise up in Parliament, we would come together, we'll hang it, and at the end of the day, we'll have a common meeting point. I hope and pray that procedure continues. Like I said, we on this side, are not averse to this. I'm speaking on behalf of the opposition. We are not averse to this, but we would ensure that every bit of the process complies with the national law. I also made to understand that the bill presented to Parliament does not contain entrenched clauses. I want it to be clearly and abundantly made known to all of us that the bill we have seen has entrenched clauses. And we know what the process calls for in the case of an entrenched clause. It does not only stop at the 2/3 in Parliament, it extends to referendum. So on behalf of the opposition, I want to assure government of our fullest cooperation if the processes and procedures are lawful. But if they are not lawful, we will not cooperate. If they are not lawful,
Who is that? Who is that?
Colleagues, honorable members, please, let's have them go. Please, let's continue, sir.
you see, they say old people feel uneasy when their bones are mentioned in the proverb. If you are very aware that the processes through which this constitutional amendment will be made are lawful, why would you even question? But again, I am saying this, and I want to be on record. I am saying this authoritatively, and I am saying this as the leader of the opposition that will not fall for anything that is not lawful. Have this at the back of your mind. Have this at the back of your mind. You say you will go ahead. We will not stop anybody from going ahead. So I'm making my position very clear. I'm not reacting to other things. This should have constituted part of my statement. I'm rounding up. I'm rounding up. I'm rounding up. I'm rounding up. Yes. I'm not shouting. I'm not shouting. Okay, I'm not shouting. So like I said, we are making history. The 6th Parliament of the Second Republic is making history to touch the most important document in this country. Let us be judicious and let us make sure that we do the right thing for the people of this country. I thank you.
Thank you very much, leader, for the statement. And I want to assure you, sir, as the leader of the policies in Parliament and on behalf of the Speaker, all right, that this process will go as prescribed in law and procedure, and under my watch, that the right things will be done. I will give you that assurance, and I want this public, of course for the MPs we are part of the process, but I want the public to give that trust that this process will go and it will be peaceful in this Parliament. I want to give you that assurance. I'm giving you that assurance. This process, even this morning as we are seated here, the two leaders is with their approval. Leader, sir, please, just your attention. All right, no, I have to go by it, sir.
We have to talk this out.
All right, for us to have a privilege today, the two of them agreed, and Mr. Speaker agreed. I only directed the AG that he has to be here today to do his presentation. All right, after first reading. No, that's I'm talking. We are still talking. He's on it. All right, sir. All right. AG, you are reminded. AG,
He's not listening.
AG, you are reminded the last discussion we had before coming here. All right.
So, sir, it's not properly before us.
No, sir. Let's go take that minute. Thank you, sir. So the assurance is to you, the public, those that are not members of Parliament. All right, that even for the privilege to be held today, the two of them agreed. All right, that is how open and participatory it has been, and that is the way it will remain. The reason why we have not slated date for the second reading, I had a discussion with him. We've not been able to have a clear-cut timetable. I'm bringing up that to show the level of transparency that has been. All right, it's because I discussed with him and he could not give me any clear-cut timetable for the APC's lower level election because he want their members to be fully participatory. All right, so I have discussed with Mr. Speaker. I'm explaining to the general public, not necessarily you to MPs because you are aware. So what we did was to do the first reading and to leave the second reading a little bit relaxed. One, the public will be able to make their input, and at the same time, as they give us their timeline, we'll be able to select when we'll be having our second reading, which is actually the most important thing. No, he hasn't been able to give me a clear timeline. All right. So why I'm explaining this, and for the general public, for all those that will be going over radio, being constitutional experts, please do this clerk a favor. Put it in writing in a position. People have received something like 3 or 4. I'll be reacting to them. I'll be writing a special letter of thank you to thank them that they've put their opinions on paper and we appreciate it. And I'm going to get all of those documents photocopy, 2 copies or perhaps 4 copies, 1 set for the 2 leaders, 1 for the chairperson and another that I will keep with myself. And I'm also promised the legislative chair this morning, I'm going to make a summary of those key recommendations so that it will ease his own work and get it across to him. But if you are also a member of the public and you want to make input, but you cannot read and write, I'll be announcing that our media team will be out, gets to them, they will sit down with you, you explain your story, and they will write it down. And it will be part of the process. We will not be having time to be listening to every conversation that you'll be doing on the radio or on the television. Our media team will attend, but we are going to make this as open and transparent. The reason why I read a portion of the standing orders this morning, SO 47-2, all right, because they've taken out their time from their busy schedules to be part of this process. It would have been unfair for them to come. Some of them might want to make statements and they are not giving the platform for them to make statements, but you know it's a main. It is not mandatory. So I'm leaving that to the chair and the AG's office to say, okay, we want to, apart from honorable members, we want to hear this person, we want to hear this person. But this is the assurance. This process is going through as prescribed in the Constitution and the standing orders. All right? After the second reading, it will be committed to the legislative committee, wherein, or maybe they will decide they want to get a committee of the whole house. If there are any amendments, like, for instance, reference to trench and entrenched clauses included, you can just expunge it at committee stage. Heaven and hell is not going to come down. The sky is still going to remain up, and this constitution will go through. But I will assure you, it will be peaceful, and it will go according to procedure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. Thank you very much, Leader of the Opposition, for reminding us about some of the laws surrounding this process. And also thank you very much, Mr. Clark, for the assurance that Parliament will adhere to the rules or the laws surrounding this whole process. If I'm to re-echo the remarks of the Leader of the Opposition, this is a defining moment in our history. We consider ourselves very lucky to be part of this process. You don't review or amend the Constitution on a daily basis. But the big question is, how do you want to be remembered in this process? It is not an APC constitution nor an SLPP constitution. It's the Constitution of Sierra Leone. So I want to encourage each and every one of us to keep an open mind when we approach this process. It's very important. We are setting the stage now for an inclusive society and pave the way for the new generation of game changers. So I want to encourage all of us to keep it in the manner we're trying to do right now. And I strongly believe by the end of the day, our representation will re-echo the thoughts of our people. Thank you very much again, Leader of the Opposition. I'll now call on the Leader of Government Business, Honorable Matthew Samuma from Bukakajama and Bulamayama. I hope the people from Bukakajama and Bulamayama are watching this program.
I don't know. We are very excited. We are more than people of Bukakajama and Bulamayama. My constituents are so entrenched in following what we are doing in the Parliament. Chairman, with your leave, and my counterpart, wanted to talk about the cartoon and the animal. I was carefully listening when he said anything different from not putting us together, we just recuse ourselves. I perfectly agree with you, sir. With your leave, sir, I want to take the opportunity to thank you for your speech and salute you for being cooperative in working for the progress of this country. Let me start on existing protocols by signaling out my former colleague, a brother, and a comrade. A comrade with 2 pens. One is black and the other one is red. So I have to take one. From that, I follow the existing protocols. Mr. Chairman, we are on record from the 5th Parliament to the 6th Parliament for progressive laws. We are not on records for abrogating the rules of procedure. We are not. I have evidences to the effect. Laws that are passed to the people of love unities all over the country, beyond Sierra Leone. I engage my previous counterpart, Honorable Chairman Manuel, in succeeding in passing most of the difficult legislations, because we believe that Sierra Leone is for all of us. Our similarities are far greater than our differences. And Sierra Leone is the only hope for the country we can do the things that we believe in, to have progressive laws that we can transform the trajectory of this country. When we started the repeal of Participatory Public Order Act, people said we are not going to do it. We don't mean it. We succeeded in repealing it. Some people ambassaded us, but today we are praised right across it at the international platform that we did the bullet laws, we ratified, we repealed Participatory Public Order Act, the obnoxious laws. We are able to do so because we put Sierra Leone first. At that moment, people are against, some people are for. Not everybody follow us. We have our differences, but we should be futuristic. We are willing to take this country. That is why all of us are here today. We have decided to form this gathering using Section 47 as stated by the Clerk of Parliament. He has elucidated clearly on those points, understanding others. That we need the stakeholders' engagement. It's not anything new. The Sexual Offences Act, we started with that as a progressive law under the administration of the opposition, Chairman Manuel. We have people coming in here. The last minute, we wanted to pass the law. They said they have their opinions, they have something to input. We looked at it, it was important, and that was included. And I see it's part of that law. But there are things that we still need to do. The Sexual Offences Act. We did agree on at administrative levels to have the forensic testing, so we can have proper evidence in terms of prosecutions. So we can have ourselves clear in mind what we are going to do. Yet we are still on that trajectory to have funding for us to do forensic tests when it comes to investigating sexual offences issues. Mr. Chairman, I know that a few of those things are done. We came down to the Giwi Act. Then the women are bluffing with it all over the place. They came, these are proposals. This is what we have, is a proposal. Even if they are put in the entrenched clause, when we go to the chamber, we just remove. We know the rules of procedure. This is a government motion. It's a proposal from the minister. We can even decide not to even consider any of these clauses and stay where we are. Because we are progressive, we are open-minded people. We have allowed the public using 47 of the standing orders to make sure that we discuss this being in the interest of Sierra Leone. Another point, when they give the act, when they give the BK, there was no provision for women's empowerment. There was no provision. Like we did for the repeal, we had to amend the INC law. The act was amended to accommodate some of the things that you are going to come with. If you repeal, what will be the other laws that will depend on if your civil liberty is abused? We don't want people to say, oh, there is lacuna, we have done this. What about other citizens who are exposed to these people? We have to be professional journalists. We came into this hall, we had some buha between one stakeholder and the chair. Yeah, that is natural. We settled it. But we did not take our eyes off the ball. We succeeded in having a reformed IMC Act that accommodates everybody and also the repeal. In the Giwi Act we have today, there's a whole provision to empower women. There's no provision to empower women. We did that principally because you can't be able to empower women and you deviated completely for what you proposed to us. Thank you. So that's what we have. But there are more to it, which are yet to accept. We came with a PPLC Act. We have done some constitutional amendments. And so the PPLC is active. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for putting us on the right track. Finding both political parties trying to exchange words of violence. What we need to succeed to do is to finance smaller parties. You cannot get all. But we are able to come to terms with the opposition, with the paramount chiefs, to say we can be EP and C. Where we are today, we have both former AGs with us. They are sitting together, Gerard and MLT Momelani. Thank you very much for your contribution in having this document in front of you. Thank you. Coming to the Public Elections Act, because this more we have reforms, and this constitutional process we have. They came with 30% quota. We are struggling with it. In fact, me and the opposition leader, Honorable General Baduba, people are calling us, lambasting us, trying to be very selfish in our thinking, and we are not nationalistic, we are not patriotic when we are about to do the Public Elections Act 2022. We are only for 2 months. They called me. I cannot say the words that they told me exactly. But I used their form of abusive language to me to educate them. I was able to convert some to understand what you are doing. Some you cannot change them. The Romans say, change. You don't give new meaning to hold up. But I use that platform to change most of them. And they are my friends to you. In that act, people are lambasting us. They are malicious. I told my counterpart, look, the fear of accident cannot stop us from driving. They came with 30% quota. I said, why do you want to give women 30%? The messenger was the problem. Everybody was coming to issue on paper, and we discussed that there's a way we can do it. Section 58 of the Public Elections Act. We wanted to have women representation directly elected to Parliament and local councils over 30% or beyond. So we took two positions into consideration. One is to have the women directly elected with over 30%, both at parliamentary level and local councils. And that one was also we did not ask the president because of executive power, which we cannot take from him, but to encourage him in the Give Act to consider giving women 30% quota at the minimum rate for positions coming from the executive. That's what we are seeing today working. It is working. And when we use the section 58 of the Public Election Act 2022, Parliament, directly elected members of Parliament, we have over 30%. We got that one right. Councils, we have 30%. We got that one right. So it's a proposal like this nature. We need to open our minds. We need to come with contributions so that we can change the trajectory of our political thinking. Let us think for the interest of Sierra Leone, not for ourselves. Let us be clear on it. For me, I have read this document over and over. I can even quote pages as I sit here. I have played with it. But I'm very happy for us to have it. I like controversial issues. It makes me stronger. But let me assure you, there is no underhand game in this business. This is part of what we are doing. We have done consultations at different levels. This is purely for members of Parliament to understand the trajectory we are taking for the particular law to be enacted. This is a transformative drive. It's not in the interest of President Bio. It's not in the interest of the opposition. It's not in the interest of SFP, PDP, etc. But purely in the interest to salvage our democracy. It's the interest to salvage the common man and woman in Sierra Leone. It is a move to transform our election systems. We have all gone through troubling times. The only thing that will divide us as a country is politics. It's politics. And we, some of us, we are using these reforms to change our thinking about how we handle politics in this country. That is why nobody can deviate me for my friendship and my brotherhood with General Maduba, the APC and SFP. It has nothing to do with our political thoughts. That's why I was able to use my friendship as a brother to look at Sierra Leone to do the reforms. Likewise, I'm doing with my honorable member, Abu Kabu. A comrade and a brother. Yes. We cannot allow those who are thinking selfishly to drive us to a crazy debate. But we can shape the lives of our people who we represent effectively here by doing the right thing. Open consultations. Let me assure you, this is not new. This is not the end. As the clerk said, we are going to have continuous deliberation on these things with the stakeholders. You have your positions. Bring your position to the class of Parliament. We can deliberate on them. We come to legislative after the debate. We come back to see to look at clause after clause, and we go back to debate some of these clauses. We know the rules of procedure in enacting constitutional instruments. We know very well. We cannot surrogate that one for anything. But let me assure you that we are being a very progressive Parliament, and we continue to do so. And as Parliament, we don't live because we are APC, SFP, and the paramount chiefs. We are family here. I'm fully aware that the public don't like Parliament, but they would like to use the Parliament to divide us to split chaos. We cannot allow that one. I will bend backwards. It cost us 100 times the SFP and the APC and the paramount chiefs to continue to deliberate on this document, to have a consensus document where we can stand, so that it can benefit Sierra Leone, not any single political party. We are doing this in the interest of Sierra Leone. So those who are this will follow a lot of social media discussions. We are starting somewhere. We have had white papers from APC and SFP. We are still moving. We are not going to throw it under the table. We look at them one after the other. Those are supposed to go for referendum. The AG and the government, they will take care of that one. If it comes to us, we'll follow the proper rules of procedure. So that's the assurance I'm giving you. That this is not an end today. Even if you are not given the opportunity to talk here today or to make your contributions, you have a bigger platform to write for us. Let us make our position nationalistic. Not because we are looking at this, now I will benefit APC, I will benefit SLPP. Don't look at that way. If you come to me with that argument, you will not succeed. Because I will not listen. So I thank you very much for coming. I thank you for your contributions, especially for AG. You have been very magnanimous in dealing with this document. It's not easy to have it. As I said, the public don't like Parliament. That is clear. Because when we are talking about our welfare, the stakeholders will go after us. If you are not talking about city fees, they will forget about this document and go after us. If we talk about medical, they will like to follow my MPs. But you don't have a vote. Not even taking consideration the MP is sick, especially abroad. But what matters for us, not how you feel about us, not what you say about us, but the intrinsic value in us, representing our people with honesty, with fairness, and diligence. We will continue to serve this nation, irrespective of the innuendos and aspersions at this parliament. We will stand tall to do progressive law. We will stand tall to unite this nation. Not by rhetoric, but by the rule of law. Thank you very much for coming. The Lord bless us all.
Thank you very much, leader of government business. It's clear from your remarks that strong leadership is critical for constitutional review process, especially when you have to navigate complex political transition and also to ensure that the resulting document from this exercise has the legitimacy it deserves. I think a well-led, transparent and inclusive process will ensure that kind of public ownership we want for this. And I strongly believe that we are going to achieve that. Again, it's an issue of active participation and total involvement of each and every one of us. Sierra Leone is the bigger picture. Let's remember that. Thank you very much again, leader of government business. I'll now call the Attorney General and Minister of Justice for his remarks. Mr. Alpha Sise Esquire.
Thank you. To the leader of government business, Honorable Matthew Sanyuma, leader of the opposition in Parliament, Honorable Abdul Kabu, I must say both of whom are also my comrades of the Almighty Radicals Club. Yes, the leader of the opposition is Nigerian. But of course, there are very senior comrades of the Radicals Club today. Seated to my right, former dictator of the Radicals Club, Joseph Fitzgerald Kamara. JFK senior comrade,
yes, our radical business.
Cheruma Juba, former deputy speaker of Parliament, and then of course my elder brother and predecessor, former Attorney General Mohammed Lamin Tarawali. So this to say that outside APC and SLPP circles, we still meet in other places to discuss moving this country forward. And also to, of course, the chair of the commission of the PPRC, former dictator Kuriba Amara, also a comrade. So it's a big family. And then, of course, the Clerk of Parliament, Mr. Kamwakonze, also a comrade. So there are others seated. And of course, the Minister of Information and Civic Education, also a comrade. So it's a big family. It's a big family. Well, he's a junior comrade. But also to acknowledge the Deputy Leader 1 and Deputy Leader 2 of Government Business, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, the Chair of the Legislative Committee of Parliament, the former Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, Honorable Members of Parliament, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Her Worship, the Mayor of Freetown City Council, as civil society partners who have also been crucial to this process, development partners, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thanks to the leadership of Parliament for the opportunity to do this presentation here today. I'd like to say that this is part of doing the people's work. Mr. Chair, we are glad that this bill before you has generated significant public interest. When we decided to move beyond the traditional means of gazetting bills in Sierra Leone by posting an electric version of this bill to the public, this is exactly what we anticipated: public interest, public discourse, and public feedback. We are glad to have accomplished that. For us as government, we do not want these public engagements to end with the pre-legislative hearing we have today. We want this to be the beginning. We want these discussions to move into the days and weeks ahead as we strive to produce a constitution that will work for the people of this country. In the days and weeks ahead, we look forward to having constructive discussions with various groups, with our civil society partners, political parties, women's groups, youth groups, our development partners, other marginalized groups, including persons with disabilities, and with the broader Sierra Leone public. This is because this is just a bill. It is not meant to be the final document that becomes law. It is meant to lay the foundation for broader public discourse and feedback. And that is what we will do with this process. As a people, Mr. Chair, we should embrace this moment as a historic opportunity for democratic renewal in our country. Our country is embarking on several reforms that will inform the nature and character of our governance system for decades. We are in the middle of major electoral reforms at a time when we are trying to conclude a long-standing constitutional review process. These are major undertakings that we must all embrace and accompany to completion. I like to say that, like a running train on the track, these reforms must go hand in hand. His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio remains steadfast in his commitment to conclude our nation's constitutional review process, a journey spanning over 2 decades. This is not merely about legal reform. It is about strengthening the bedrock of our democracy. The President has made it clear, finalizing this process is central to our governance agenda, alongside transformative reforms in the public sector and other pillars of the Big Five game changers. The reforms we discuss in this bill come as a result of our acknowledgement of the challenges we have faced in our electoral and governance architecture. While we acknowledge these challenges, we must also note that as a nation, we stand on the shoulders of a remarkable democratic journey, one forged in the fires of adversity and sustained by our unyielding commitments to peace. Since emerging from the darkness of civil war, Sierra Leone has held 5 consecutive democratic elections, each a milestone in our collective journey. Among these, 2 historic transfers of power to the opposition, in 2007 and 2018. These stand as towering achievements that we should celebrate. But these were not merely political events, they were triumphs of national character, proving that our democracy is not just functional, but it's maturing. For a country that went through decades of one-party dictatorship, subjected to military coups brought to its lowest ebb as a result of civil war, the journey we have walked to this point, though not perfect, is one that we must celebrate. Yet, let us be candid that no democracy is without its trials. We have navigated several challenges as a nation. We've had to deal with election disputes, we've had to deal with institutional gaps, and yes, we have had to deal with moments of polarization. But the truth we must cling to is this: and these challenges are not indictments of failure. They are the necessary growing pains of a democracy finding its footing. They remind us that democracy is not a destination, but a continuous act of collective will and refinement. This is precisely why in this process of constitutional making, we have adopted one irreducible principle: listening. Listen not just to the powerful, but to the market woman in Waterloo who fears that her vote doesn't count, to the youth activist in Go who is demanding a seat at the table, to the traditional leader in Kono who is bridging old traditions and new aspirations, and to the young girl in Makeni yearning for fairness and equity in decision making. Their voices, your voices, did not just inform the process, they drove the process. The national conversation we have now was born from this very ethos that electoral systems must serve people, not power. Today, we confront a pivotal choice. Will we settle for systems that merely function, or will we demand systems that inspire trust, amplify voices, and endure? It is my hope, and truly the hope of His Excellency the President, that we will opt for the latter. Mr. Chairman, kindly allow me to walk us through the journey we have walked as a nation to get to this point. I'm very pleased that two of my predecessors are seated here today, and we have asked the two of them to be together because they have been very integral to this process. They have both been shepherds of the long-standing constitutional review process. They have both managed white papers in 2017 and 2021. And I'm referring to the attorneys general before me, Joseph Fitzgerald Kamara, commonly known as JFK, former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and flag bearer aspirant for the All People's Congress Party, and Mohammed Lamin Tarawali Esquire, former Attorney General and Minister of Justice. Both, as I said earlier on, are very senior comrades of the right as well. This nation owes the two of you a debt of gratitude for the way you have managed this process, and it has been an incredible honor to continue to learn from you, to be inspired by the work that you do, and that you have remained committed to work with us to take this work to completion. There are others who worked on this process who are not here today, originally started by former Attorney General the late Solomon Ekuma Berewa, and then moving on to other holders of this office. May their souls rest in perfect peace. I also want to pay special tribute to the Deputy Minister of Justice, Madam Saptiu Sako, whose commitment to make sure that we have a gender-responsive constitution has been inspiring. In the weeks ahead, the Deputy Minister of Justice and I both intend to have detailed engagement with women's groups to make sure that this constitution works for women of Sierra Leone. I also want to pay tribute to two persons who have been integral to this process. I would say who are authors of a significant part of the bill that we have before us. The co-chairs of the tripartite process, Dr. Emmanuel Gaima, who represented the government of Sierra Leone, co-chair, and Dr. Kelfana Mara, who represented the All People's Congress in the tripartite process. I say this to let you know that the bill we have before us has two major sources. One, the Kawan constitutional review process managed by two AGs before me, and the tripartite process managed by the two co-chairs I have just mentioned. There is nothing else that government has added to this bill outside these two processes. I think I have been very public to say yes, there are one or two provisions that have been amended, which is really what governments do, right? With white papers, you accept, you reject, or you accept with modifications. We've been very public about these, and these will also form the basis of discussions that we will have in the weeks ahead. And credit also goes to our civil society and development partners who have continued to support this process. Your input has been crucial, and we look forward to continued engagement with you on this. I'd like to say that at a time when people are quick to talk about polarization in governance, when people are quick to talk about the things that we disagree on, when people are quick to point to the fact that one government says one thing and then a political party opposes because of the messenger, I like to say that the constitutional review process is one thing that we all agree on. Because every government, since the war came to an end, has worked diligently to take this process to completion. From the government of late President Kaba to that of former President Nkrumah, and then now President Bio. So really, this is an example of continuity in government, and so we must embrace it. So, Mr. Chair, kindly allow me to provide some historical context. The constitutional review process itself.
You want to start your presentation now for here?
No. I'll come to the presentation. The constitutional review process, as we know it, is a product first of the Lome Peace Agreement in 1999. Because in Lome, we agreed that the 1991 Constitution as framed was not sufficient to prevent a backsliding. And so we continued this in the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And so this became a crucial recommendation in the report of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, a mechanism set up following the end of the conflict in 2002. And so the process was first started by late President Ahmad Kaba in 2007 and was subsequently picked up by former President Ernest Bai Koroma, who constituted the Justice Edmond Kawan Constitutional Review Committee. And I'd like to note that as we hold these discussions here today, we do so during the very week, 2 days ago from today, that the architect of this process, the late Justice Kawan, departed this world for the world beyond. And so with your leave, Mr. Chair, I would want to call on this gathering to observe a moment of silence for him. May his soul and the souls of the faithfully departed rest in peace. So, as I just stated, the Constitutional Review Committee, set up by former President Ernest Bai Krumah and chaired by the late Justice Edmund Kawan, had 80 members from all shades of life: political parties, civil society, youth groups, women's groups, journalists, etc., etc. The committee itself operated from 2013 to 2017 with technical and financial support from UNDP, UN Women, United Kingdom, European Union, and then the Ministries of Foreign Affairs of Kenya and Ghana. So really the process has been as participatory and as inclusive as possible and has been done in the national interest. The figures are there to speak to it. The 80-member Justice Edmund Kawan Constitutional Review Committee held over 10,000 public consultations with various stakeholders nationwide, over 10,000. Had 133 stakeholder engagements with women, youth, political parties, paramount chiefs, local councillors, CSOs, media, lawyers, etc. Consulted with 198 MDAs, commissions, religious groups, and other institutions. Had 80 expert engagements on key constitutional issues. Received over 150 position papers from political parties, MDAs, and various groups. Had over 20,000 hours of airtime over the media, including live debates, jingles, theme songs, etc. Distributed over 70,000 forms for people to answer questions and provide responses to key constitutional issues, or really lay out their own views or aspirations for what a revised or a new constitution should look like. It operated a website that received 40,960 visitors, had a Facebook page that had over 12,000 followers. When you consider internet penetration going years back, I think those numbers are telling. So the Kawan Constitutional Review Committee handed its report to former President Krumah in January 2017, and in June 2017, the government of former President Ernest Bai Krumah issued a white paper in which it accepted some recommendations and rejected some. And then there was a transition in government. Following his election in 2018, His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio decided to pick up the process from where it was left in 2017, after Justice Kawan submitted the committee's report to former President Krumah. And in March 2021, the government of His Excellency President Bio issued a second white paper on the Justice Edmund Kawan Constitutional Review Committee report. The white paper reflects the contributions, aspirations, and determination of the people of Sierra Leone to improve and sustain the rule of law, lasting peace, and human development. Recently, a few months ago, when I had a discussion with the National Women's Conference, their memo indicated that they had identified 16 issues in the Kawan report which were of importance to women. And they were pleased that government had accepted 12 of those 16 recommendations as issues that are important to the women of this country. At the meeting, I made clear to them that in fact government had acted on the remaining 4. So you can see that in a significant way has also influenced the process. during the Universal Periodic Review in May 2021, Sierra Leone made a pledge that will conclude the constitutional review process, and that is what we are working on. Of course, in the middle of this, we had the tripartite process that I mentioned earlier. A process that came as a result of our disagreement over the outcome of the 2023 elections. And together with our brothers and sisters in the APC, we sat down for 6 months, engaged various interest groups, including electoral management bodies, civil society, other political parties, and under the leadership of Dr. Gaima and Dr. Mara, we moved across this country to gather the views of Sierra Leoneans. The 80 recommendations we agreed on in the tripartite report are the product of this national exercise. And some of these recommendations touch on constitutional amendments. As a government, we agreed that these will be added to the recommendations in the Justice Edmund Cowan Constitutional Review Committee report. And this is what we have in this bill. If anyone tells you that the provisions in this bill are the creation of government alone, they have lied to you. The provisions in this bill are exclusively the product of the Justice Cowan Constitutional Review Committee report, set up by former President Nkrumah, and that of the tripartite report and its recommendations, co-chaired by Dr. Gaima and Dr. Mara. Government has not added anything, but I've been very public to state that yes, there are 1 or 2 provisions that government has amended, which is the right thing to do, but they are not set in stone. That is the essence of these engagements, the essence of these consultations. And then, of course, at the end of this exercise, Parliament will determine what will go into the Constitution. So I like to say that we have not done this in hiding, but to also say that a lot of people trying to get political mileage on this bill have received its content since last year. The contents of this bill are not new to many of the stakeholders who are not speaking about it. This has been in the custody of several of the people who now speak publicly about provisions in this bill. And these are discussions people have had even before getting to this stage. So I think let's approach this with the honesty it deserves. Among several consultations, the last set of public consultations, and that's not to count the ones that have happened in my office, on the 28th of October last year, we had consultations that were public with electoral management bodies. On the 30th of October, we have consultations with political parties on the legislative proposals. And there were other such consultations before now. As a matter of fact, I think my brother and comrade, the leader of the opposition in Parliament, in fact represented the APC in the last consultation that we had on the 30th of October. And then we have had the same with civil society organizations and the media sector. We had such a meeting on the 31st. These are additions to the ones we had before now, and the engagements we have had across the country, and engagements that have happened in my office, during which we have been very open and have shared the presentation that I'll make here today. I also mentioned that we have had discussions with women's groups where we assured them that the 16 recommendations in the Women's Manifesto will be part of the new Constitution. But I'd like to emphasize, Mr. Chair, honorable members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, that these consultations have not come to an end. They must continue in the days and weeks as we strive to make this a better document that will work for Sierra Leone. Of course, persons who have been part of this process, I say, should continue to engage and make this better. But to refuse to take ownership for what we have done together, and then to oppose this just because it is led by government or to build political mileage, it's not leadership. To mislead the people we seek to govern for political mileage is not leadership. So as we take this process to a conclusion, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, let us be guided by certain things. Let us note that Sierra Leone has transformed significantly in recent decades. Our demographics, our economy, and our social dynamics have all evolved. Therefore, our constitution must keep pace with these changes. A new constitution will better capture the realities and aspirations of our people, ensuring that our governance structures and legal provisions are fit for today's Sierra Leone and the future we envision. Revising our outdated sections ensures our legal framework is robust and relevant, is capable of addressing modern challenges and fostering a just society. We pride ourselves in being a tolerant nation that puts national unity over ethnicity, over religion, and over political affiliations. This is another chance for us to show that unity. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude by saying that this should not and will not be a rushed process. Constitutions are meant to outlive us, and they must reflect the views and aspirations of the people of Sierra Leone. The Constitution must be owned by them. We acknowledge that no bill is perfect. That is why it is called a bill. It is our hope that the legislation that comes out of this process will be better than the bill that we discussed today and in the weeks to come. On that note, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to transition to going through specific proposals that are in this bill, with your leave.
Thank you, Mr. AG. I want to thank you for giving us an in-depth view of this constitutional review journey. And in your remarks, you've clearly reminded us that this is a product of the Justice Cowan White Paper, the Tripartite Agreement, and of course, consultative engagements around the country. So it is a document for Sierra Leoneans. And I think as a parliament, it's also our responsibility to ensure that we come out with a document that will meet the expectations of Sierra Leoneans. What type of document is that? A document that will help us to sustain the peace we build. A document that will help us build national cohesion. A document that will help us maintain the rule of law. A document that will help promote human development. So, the document is now in the hands of Parliament. But it's good to remind us that the discussion will continue. As representatives of the people, we're open to all suggestions, position papers that will come from the public, to ensure that we incorporate them into this document and that we reflect their voices. So I think now we are going to proceed to the presentation proper. We're going to look at, I don't know the method you're going to use, but maybe provision after provision. And then members will have the opportunity to ask questions and maybe offer suggestions. And then, of course, maybe seek clarification where necessary. So, AG, the floor is yours for the presentation. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and leadership of Parliament. So, what I'm going to do is to go through a PowerPoint presentation of the provisions in the bill. And I'll provide context to some, and where possible, I'm able to see what is from the current process or from the tripartite process, and then of course we'll leave it up for questions. First is to say what we try to do with this process. After the tripartite report was submitted to His Excellency the President, 80 recommendations agreed to. We took out the recommendations that touch on constitutional amendments. But then we have always been very clear that the broader constitutional review process is a subject of a long-standing government commitment. And of course, as I just mentioned, going back to the days of the late President Kaba and continuing to this point. So I like to say that really we've been running a relay. Where one government has been handing this baton to another government. The only thing is that the current government has made a commitment that we will not transition this baton to another government. So what we did was to put, first let me say, this is subject of long-standing commitment by government. And so we've always been very clear that the tripartite process, as important as it is, was never meant to undo existing government commitment to broader reforms, including the constitutional review process. It was meant to complement existing or ongoing reforms being managed by government. And so when we took out the recommendations that touch on constitutional amendments and paired them with the recommendations that have been made by the Cowan Constitutional Review Committee, we were fortunate to find out that a lot of the proposals really align. They speak to each other. They do not contradict each other. But then there were proposals made by the tripartite committee which were not in the Cowan report, but also some proposals made by the Cowan report which had not been captured by the tripartite process. But they really did not contradict each other. And so what we did was to prepare a document that laid out how these proposals speak to each other, which one comes from tripartite or from Cowan, and put them in a document that, again, since last year, has been shared with several stakeholders in this room. So that's just to say that is how we choose to approach it. But again, like I said, this is part of broader efforts to conclude the constitutional review process. So we note that that process cannot be completed in January or in February. And so what we agreed on with all stakeholders, what we agreed on was that because elections are time sensitive, you do not want to undertake electoral reforms, or you do not want to amend provisions that touch on the conduct of elections, close to elections, we agreed, all of us who have been part of this process, to take out the constitutional proposals that touch on elections and bring them to Parliament as a separate bill. We have laid this out as the procedure that will follow. That is also because there are other reforms taking place, right? We have subjected the Electoral Commission for Sierra Leone to a functional management review, and then we are in discussions based on recommendations in the tripartite process, as well as consultations with a broader set of stakeholders that we will review the relevant laws that touch on elections, Public Elections Act, the Political Parties Act, etc. And so, to do all of those reviews, it is important to take the amendments that touch on elections to completion, so that these, once they go through Parliament, will speak to the reforms that get into the various pieces of legislation on the conduct of elections. But then, once we're done with these, we'll now continue with the broader constitutional review process. But then we'll have taken the elections proposals out of the way. This is not something that became public overnight. This is something that we have discussed. And matter of fact, lots of people, including persons in this room, asked questions of me up to last year as to why this bill was not in Parliament last year. But then we said, in fact, we called for the last set of consultations in October, just to inform of this process. And then we said technical details. We had to put Mr. Thompson, our draftsman, under immense pressure to get this bill together. But then now it's here, some people have again said that it is rushed, including those who were urging me to bring this to Parliament last year.
AG, so, just sorry for the interruption. Can we please make, yes, when we go clause by clause, we also have the opportunity to get input from any clause.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chair. I really just wanted to know why we have the constitutional amendments on elections and how we transition to the broader constitutional review after this. So please let's go to the first slide. So one, it is recommended that the Electoral Commission be renamed to National Electoral Commission for Sierra Leone. We are all used to calling it NEC. And so it is proposed, not by government, it is